Hello and thank you for taking the time to listen to today's presentation. My name is Brandon Boyd, and this semester I had a chance to participate in a marketplace simulation involving strategic marketing in a bike company as part of the OL 603 strategic marketing class. I found this simulation to be fun, rewarding, and a chance to apply what I have learned in class to an enjoyable example. Let's jump in to see how I did with my organization, which I called BoydBikes. Before I go week by week, I want to first show my overall results through graph form. Over the 8 quarters given, I was able to provide market value, establish my target audience, increase my profit margins, and generally put myself on the right path to succeed. However, this was not a linear process, as I will explain as I go along. In quarter 1, my main aim was to familiarize myself with the industry and carbon fiber bikes. I have no experience with bikes beyond the fact that I have a bike that I like to ride for fun, so for me, I had to take a look at the available information and statistics to become informed. I also needed to know how I was going to measure success, which I ended up defining mostly financially, and I had to consider my investment capital in my first plan as a new bike organization owner. I decided that I would focus my attention specifically on the work and recreation segments, as I thought they both had a strong need, solid price point, and a room to operate and grow within the market. I created the initial Boyd bike in hopes it would satisfy the needs of both segments. My initial aim was a market growth strategy that would both establish myself in those categories and create new users of the Boyd bike in both areas. I knew the early quarters would be a time of competitive positioning, so I set my focus on a broad scale and said that I would aim to be aggressive and push forward in markets. To do so, I started by opening bike shops in Amsterdam and Rio de Janeiro to establish myself in 2 large cities within those markets. After seeing potential in the speed target segment, I'd made the decision to try to jump into the speed market headfirst to establish myself as everyone jockeyed for position. To do so, I created the Boyd Speed Bike. The other main goal of this quarter for me was to create monetary value for my consumers by setting fair prices and then also offering rebates to consumers to further entice them to purchase my 2 bikes on the market. The next quarter is where I had a few slip-ups. First, I began to realize that the Boyd bike is performing much stronger in the recreation category than the work category, so I switched to more of a recreation focus. I also stubbornly continue my pursuit into being a leader in the speed category despite not performing as strongly as I had hoped. I create the Boyd Bike 2 and the Boyd Speed 2 in an attempt to redefine my organization and the offerings we have. The 2 major items that I would take back here if I could redo this quarter is that I was too conservative and I was too reactive. If I could break the fourth wall for just a moment in my real-life marketing experience, I've always been with an organization that consistently worries about the budget, they don't have a lot of extra money to spend, and they need to find a way to keep costs low while still providing a quality service. So in this simulation, my real-life experience took over, and I was way too panicked at the idea of initially losing money, which made me reactive and start trying to figure out how to keep costs low. This was a short-sighted attempt at mitigating risk. I cut the number of salespeople in my 3 stores, and I didn't open any new stores in this quarter, but I'd like to have that back if I could. Quarter 5 is where it starts to click for me. First, I see a pretty large opening in the market share for the youth market, so I enter that market. I decide I'm splitting my success well enough in the recreation and work segments that I can try to focus on both once again, and I do hastily continue my quest towards working into the speed segment. In this quarter, I worked to create strategic value for my consumers by beginning to pay for new resources and developments. These include a pedal-powered phone device and charger, which I felt could be used by several markets, a large mesh folding tote bag for my recreation and work crowd, and a light slim carbon fiber, which I thought could be valuable for the speed segment. I created the Boyd Speed 3 and the Boyd Youth in this quarter, and opened 2 more stores. Quarter 6 is where I began actually acting on the worldly, aggressive mindset I had identified as my goal early on in the simulation. I continued my R&D development with carbon fiber riser handlebars, a performance bike computer, puncture-resistant slime and tires, and bright, colorful styled decals. I also created 4 new bikes and opened 3 new stores, and I ramped up my advertising spend. This is also the point where I decided on more of a steal share strategy where I could leverage myself against my competitors and begin grabbing their users as I offered strong monetary value and strategic value through my offerings. Quarter 7 was an opportunity for me to finally establish myself fully in every market and further ramp up my marketing. I set new bike priorities that were directly in line with my strongest target segments, I accelerated my online marketing spend, and I started to reward my employees and incentivize them to sell more of our product. Of course, as the simulation comes to an end is when I really start to find my footing and establish a strong identity and value. I create 3 new premium brands, the Boyd Tech, the Boyd Rugged, and the Boyd Q Speed, and I used our new technologies to further offer the strategic value within our key target segments. I now offer 10 different bikes between the prices of $700 and $1,200. I competed against 4 different computer organizations as well as the rest of the class, and as shown in the following graphs, quarter 8 is when I saw a nice boost in the market share and started to really make headway against my competitors. While I did not have the most market share in any one category, I did have strongholds in the youth, recreation, and speed categories. My total market share jumped 8% between quarter 7 and 8, and my market demand jumped by over 3,000. You can see on these graphs that I am the color blue, and the color blue increases in all 3 graphs on quarter 8, and then the market size continues to grow from quarter to quarter. So I feel like I did a nice job there. Next, my brand profitability is shown here with my 10 different bikes. My premium brands like the Boyd Tech and the Boyd Q Speed showed great potential as profit makers. You can see their gross profit at around 600,000 each, almost 700,000. And my Boyd Speed 3.5, which was kind of a hybrid between my premium and basic model, and my Boyd G2W or Go to Work, both had a strong profit per unit. As my numbers show, I was able to end with a nice return on investment and a positive net profit. However, the road to get there was a bit tumultuous, and the willingness to spend for long-term gain that took place in quarters 5 and 6 should have taken place earlier. That said, my return on investment did become a 41 in quarter 8 after being in the negatives for the previous quarters. These graphs further break down the stats behind BoydBikes. We increased by almost $3 million in gross sales between the last 2 quarters and increased our gross margin by $1.5 million. The graph on the left further shows the flat rise of marketing operating expenses from quarters 3 to 5, and then the rise from quarter 6 and beyond. On the right, I further show which bikes were selling well for me, and my 2 premium brands and the youth bikes were the most well-selling units out of all my bikes. So what went right and what went wrong for BoydBikes? Let's get the bad news out of the way first. As I've touched on several times, we were too conservative early on. It took us more time than I expected to find where we succeeded the most, and we also expanded a bit later than we should have. We were slightly reactive and not proactive enough in the early quarters, and it did take us some time to establish brand value. However, better late than never. BoydBikes did end up seeing the success that I was hoping for. We established ourselves globally and across markets and discovered our brand. We established a reliable target audience and provided strategic and monetary value to that audience. We also used our R&D development to create a premium line of bikes that sold well. Overall, we had a basic, hybrid, and premium line of bikes, and had the simulation kept going, I believe we were well positioned to continue performing positively, which was my end goal. Just to wrap up, I want to say that I did really enjoy taking on this challenge. I thought this was a very cool interaction, and I learned a lot from it. So thank you so much, and that's it.